Always in a good mood. I need some that rip off my feet.
Need some? Come on, coach. Nobody's on my live. Disappointing. Oh, there's somebody. No, one is me. I figured that out. I know, I got all excited the other day when it was one. I said,
Let's go.
how do you know it's Carson?
That's
amazing.
Feisty Goomba?
Did you not know
Yeah.
that? Oh my
Why would
God.
he know?
How am I so mean? Thank you. I know, I'm such an idiot.
Someone else is here.
Hello, Gabriella. It's just Carson, though. You're the only, oh,
That's what I'm saying.
You should
Subscribe to his
subscribe.
channel.
oh, to his channel?
Not bad.
Wait, does Carson make videos?
Oh, yeah. He made like a music top 10 album from last year video. You should watch it.
Sorry, the bell rang early. I didn't know Parsley would make it.
It has nothing to do with you, but they're blowing my mind in here right now.
Jim, did you get a haircut?
I do.
What is that look?
Oh, this is, so when I was a sophomore, for like watch this thing, this gave me a book.
Jim, you're late.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're
You're late.
Carson, why
You had a
why
stuff
is
here
that?
earlier, person.
is that
Well,
legit or are you fun?
anyway, so I got one sophomore year. It was nice and new. And then I lost it, and I have to see if I have another.
You have to speak up because he cannot hear you.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Oh, actually, Deeksha, okay,
Oh, yeah.
Deeksha wanted to talk to you.
Diksha did?
Yeah.
Oh,
She told me to call her while I was.
oh. This is working out really well.
Only in this class.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it really?
None
this-
of my other classes are functioning.
Is this okay though?
They're
I mean,
all-
They're all
This is-
doing like, they're all
Deeksha.
doing Google Meets instead of YouTube live stream.
And it's not very, it's so much better, isn't it?
So much.
Okay. I got an email from another teacher saying, apparently I need to speak to you on how to handle some of this because I'm doing it wrong. Apparently, I guess she asked the kids. So I guess I appreciate that, but now you're making more work for me.
Ooh, name drop which teacher.
I'll never do that again, did I? But I turned the butter first hour. When you locked her, mom know it, I did it all. But then she said her dad does like the motorcycle hop one. I didn't know about that one.
You want to demonstrate?
She did. I'm in. I mean, it's gonna take a little practice on that one. I can't do that in front of the kids.
Carson's taking the next answer.
I'm not just a teacher, man.
Sorry, you should subscribe to my channel. I didn't see that.
Yeah. What a freak.
I can't believe you-
Here's Deeksha. She's one.
What? Hi, Deke. What's up? Did you just want to say hi? Oh. Did I have a FaceTime? They're commenting on my live channel. Hi, Deke. What's up?
Deeksha, are you on the YouTube thing?
I'm not making
Okay.
this up.
Carson's
My daughter
giving
just
live
got
commentary.
quarantined
He says hi.
for 0 days
Here's another one too.
because the exposure was on the
Too late.
14th.
Everyone else
The
here.
quarantine period has run out.
Can you believe that? Well, I'm gonna.
Can I help you with anything?
No, we meant to get on the line.
Okay, okay. There's two people on there. It's Jacob.
Oh,
Jacob, that one
Bye.
Hey, Jacob. You sent it to him? Jeez, Morgan.
Post the link everywhere and try to get you like 100 viewers.
Huh?
You just post the link everywhere and try to get you like 100 viewers.
I got worried because first hour, one of my students uses something crazy like this. And it was a weird name. And I'm thinking, maybe I should have made this public. Because I thought somebody just jumped up here. If they say something, whatever. We're getting ready to hide this. Who what? Who what? Who what? Who? Jacob tell you to take this class?
Yeah, sure.
Did he? Jacob loved this class.
Yeah.
All right, children, what can I help you guys with? Any questions that you have? There are some hard ones on the homework, I promise, talk to me.
Well, did I just have to?
Notes, that's why I need to get y'all, yes, thank you. I thank you for reminding me of that, I forgot that first hour too, they had to remind me of that. And one of the questions on 8.2, they actually asked you what is the confidence level. And so you had to do some algebra to figure out what the Z-score was. And then you have to do negative, normal CDF from negative that Z-score to that positive Z-score to find that area. Or plug and chug in your calculator and just use your calculator until you get the answer. But anyway, there's a lot of questions on that kind of stuff on a confidence interval. Make sure that you know if you have a confidence interval that your p hat is right in the middle of that. And your margin of error is that p hat plus that value or p hat minus that value, but that should be the same value. So that's your margin of error. And so you can calculate the margin of error also from just the interval. And so they like to ask some questions about that kind of stuff. And it didn't come very well in the PowerPoint. The lesson go okay then so far, we think? Like I said, I'm doing what I can. I really like it this way a whole lot better than what happened last spring. At least I get to see half of you guys. And there's something if there was nobody in here, there's no way I could be doing anything for this thing without it. I gotta have an audience. Like Carson. Carson's my good audience. Melissa. I don't know Melissa T. Do I? I'm just such a doofus. Bye. Now I can't see what you write. Let me get some notes for you guys. The handouts. And I apologize for getting this as late as I did to you guys. I wish I would have gotten it to you. I should have.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you already got
Yeah,
them?
and then-
Oh, you're so. I couldn't. I don't know how anybody has any printers anymore. I've had like 3 of those and they never work. Or always either, you don't need them because you were fucking good. You want them. Mr. Pork, oh, boy. You already got them too, nerd. You got them? You want them? You don't need them? Do you want them? You want them? You already got them. Bird, you don't want them either. You already got them. You want them?
Yes, please.
Sweet. No, you're so nice. That's so polite. Yes, please. You're so nice. You're so well. Yes. Would you like them? You're good. I don't know why I'm wasting space. I didn't even ask you guys. You don't want them?
Yeah.
You want them? Thank you. Yeah, darn right. Yeah, you're welcome. Without students, this job would stink. If y'all don't know that. It would. I mean, it'd be really easy. I gotta have interact. I gotta have communication.
You mean in like this
Even if
setup
you're-
specifically?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, that's not what I thought.
I know.
The students.
Teaching the students.
Teaching those students. That's what a lot of teachers, when we have to go through in-service, we have to go for like a whole week and go through in-service, which is really enjoyable because I'm on that. But some teachers will say, man, if it was like this all the time, I could teach forever. No, you couldn't. Sit in meetings all freaking day. Give me kids. I just don't want to grade the test. That's what I don't like.
You don't want to.
I'm about decided that. I'm about decided I just give you what you think you earned. No, nobody has any questions over anything. In all honesty, I really wish, y'all okay with a different definition? There's two major definitions. When you describe the confidence interval, that's where we have to say we're so many confident that the true proportion or the true population is in between that value. That does not mean there is a chance that it's in there. We think it's in there, but it has nothing to do with a chance. So when we have to interpret the level is when we have to say if we did this over and over and over again. Okay? So that is probably the most missed thing that's on this, is interpreting it the incorrect way. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm on YouTube. You'd like to see it twice. Who is this Melissa T? Feisty Goomba. New student. Somebody in here playing with me? Turds. You are? Uh-huh. I could have figured that out. I got it. Uh-huh. Where's my stick? I'm pretty impressed, actually. Something new for this class. What?
Did you have Melissa Taylor?
I do not remember that name.
Well, that's the only Melissa T that I can think of.
It was him. I do not. Who is Melissa Taylor? How old is she?
I think she graduated last year.
Last year? I for sure did not have a Melissa Taylor last year. Although last year was so much of a blur because I only saw him for half the year, it seemed like. Now I'm only seeing you guys for half the year. It's all right. I'll not forget you guys. Yet. All right, here we go then. There are 6 people watching this with me. Some of them are probably in class. That seems, does that help you guys better too, I guess, when I pre-post it, or does it matter? Whatever. Man, guys, y'all gotta give me some feedback on it. Difference in proportions. So pretty much exactly what we did, what you did and what we did on Monday, we're going to repeat today. We'll get done fairly quickly. It will not be very long at all. So here we go. Determine whether the conditions are met for constructing a confidence interval about the difference between 2 proportions. Sometimes we want to know the difference between 2 proportions. The proportion over here is 80% and the proportion over here is 70%. What's the difference between them? Well, we know that that's 10%, but we also want a confidence interval about the true population between the two. Okay? Construct and interpret a confidence interval for the difference between 2 proportions. So that's the only thing we're going to be covering today. I'm going to jump right in with the conditions. So picture this. This is not going to be overwhelming, I hope. And if you guys picked up on lesson number 1 on Monday, right, they're not much different. So I got a sample over here of something. I don't know what. Sample of males, white cars, whatever it might be. I got another sample over here because we have 2 separate samples. Well, both samples have to be random. Fair enough? But not only do they have to be random, they have to be independent samples. So the data must come from 2 independent random samples. Or it says from 2 groups in a randomized experiment. They're being a little nitpicky on that. Basically, as we've got 2 different groups. And somehow or another, they have to be randomized. And they need to be independent. They need to be independent. What happens in that group over there should not affect what happens in this group over here. All right. So that's one of our conditions. The next condition is this group over here must be less than 10% of the population when sampling without replacement. I think I just said this wrong. Oh my gosh. I may need y'all's help in a little bit. And this one over here must be less than 10% of the population without replacement. Man, I thought it was with replacement. Without replacement. Well, I'm still trying to figure this out. Yes, sir.
I think it's because the idea is that if you're not replacing them, then the probability is going to slowly change. So like if you had 10 individuals that you picked from a sample of 15, the chance of the first individual being like for cards per se.
Yeah.
The chance of the first individual being a red card is still like, 8 out of 15 is like about half. But then when you get to the last one, it's like either, it could be like 80% or 20%. Because you could probably be left with like 4 black cards or 1 red card. I think that's why I said, because if you do have replacement, then you're supplementing it every time. So the likelihood of it, like some of that being true, are still the same.
Now, let me stew on that. I was also looking at it like, this is what I've always been thinking. If it's less than 10% of the population and you put that person back in, the chance of getting that person is really, really small. That's kind of the way I've been looking at that 10%. But it's without replacement. So I have to do the 10% when it's without replacement. Because of that. Let me stew on that a little bit more. I think I just did all this wrong and nobody corrected me first hour. Y'all will see an example in a second that comes up with the 10%. More times than not, we're going to check the 10% rule because more times than not, it's without replacement. More times than not, it's without replacement. And then the large counts condition must be met for 2 or both groups. And we know what the large count condition is. The large count condition basically says that this one over here needs to be approximately normally distributed because n times p and n times 1 minus p must be bigger than 10. This distribution over here must be approximately normally distributed because n times p and n times 1 minus p must be bigger than or equal to 10. There's 2 things. Well, no, there's one thing I don't see them mentioning approximately normally distributed on this. And I am fairly certain that that is part of the condition that needs to be met. And how we know it's approximately normally distributed is because of the large counts, but I think we have to also state that it's approximately normally distributed because of this. Because I copied this from this book. Really, really, really confident that rubrics have to state that the distribution is approximately normally distributed because you get docked if you don't use the word approximately. And you get docked if you don't say that, even if you check the large counts. So we're going to keep going with that for right now, and we'll kind of see how that progresses. Talk to me.
Are these rules that we can say, like 10% rule, or do we need to say? Because like I know you said that there are things that we should.
Yeah. So you can't just say large counts without proving it. Fair enough. Same thing with that 10%. Now that one you can kind of say the sample, or I wouldn't just say the sample. The sample of 12 is less than 10% of the population. Fair enough with that. I think it comes down to being specifics again. I've changed my whole deal on this last year more than previously. Used to, man, my first couple of years, here I tell my students, SRS, check. 10%, check. Approximately normal distributed, check. And we were done with the conditions. And I still had students get 5, so I'm pretty impressed. Because I don't think fair. I don't think that's good enough. I did have them say that, N equals, or I would say N times P is, I at least prove that. So I think that works, but that's pretty weak. That's pretty weak. So I think if we can just go a little bit more. Now, again, right, you're with me on all this. Of course, homework's a little bit different. I think most of it's like multiple choice, but if it was my test, I'm not gonna grade this very hard. I'm gonna check to make sure we've done it and that kind of stuff. But if it was AP, you probably want to take it a little bit further than just boom. Does that kind of make sense on that? I don't think there was a question. I just think I kind of, oh, you did. You kind of ran on that, yeah. Y'all kind of, anyway. But that, I've always done this approximately normal. And this hasn't said anything about approximately. So I don't, anyway, we'll go with it. Here's a problem, okay? Harris Interactive Survey asked independent random samples. Boom, we already know we got independent random samples, okay? Of adults from the United States and Germany. That would make sense that they are independent random samples. About the importance of brand names when buying clothes of the 2309 U.S. Adult Survey. Holy cow. I got a new marker so you can read it. 2309. And that is U.S. people. 26% said brand names were important. Hat of U is equal to 0.26. I like to kind of write things down as we're going. With 22% of the Germans. This is where I went off on a tangent first hour and I started talking about the Germans. And I mentioned the fact of the Germans ain't got nothing to do with it. And that came from a movie. What movie it was? Anybody know what movie I'm talking about? Yeah! Check mark. Except he says a bunch of other things in front of that,
Yeah.
which probably would clue a lot more others, but I just can't say those. A bunch of four-letter words. Anyway. What? Have you ever seen Smokey and the Bandit?
No.
I highly recommend it.
I'll write that down.
It is humorous. It is so funny for me. You may not laugh at all. You might be laughing at me laughing at that because you're thinking, "Ryan, heck, this is not funny."
This is funny. This right
This
here
is funny?
It's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah?
Little.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the movie is not that funny then.
Oh, God.
Have you ever seen it? Rosales, you ever seen Smokey and the Bandit? I mean, there's like a Smokey and the Bandit 1, 2, and 3. And there may even be a 4, and they start thinking about number 2. So don't watch those.
Can we get a synopsis?
Huh?
Can we get a synopsis?
Yeah. I can't hit pause though.
That's fair. I'm sure the people want to know.
They do.
What's the equivalence to that?
So, and Smokey is, that's a slang term. So everybody was walkie-talkie, everybody back in the day before cell phones, everybody had CBs. And you talked to other cars about CBs and you had handles and all that. Well, the Smokey, every time you see a Smokey, that was a police officer. So that's the Smokey part of it, police officer. And Bandit was Burt Reynolds. And he was the Bandit. And that's what his name was. Everybody called him the Bandit. And the story is basically, this is a pure comedy, is back in the day, like some states didn't sell certain beverages. And some those beverages were apparently really, really good. Like they sold them in Denver, Colorado, and that was it. And this wealthy individual who was about 6'8", and his brother who was about 5'2", and they're called Big Enos and Little Enos. And they wore the same outfit and everything else. Anyway, that starts to get funny. Huh? Anyway, they wanted some of these beverages. You have to be 21 to have these beverages. So he ended up talking Bandit into going to get some of these beverages and trucking them across. So Bandit had to go get his buddy who drove a semi-truck. And so they loaded up the semi-truck with these beverages and illegally transporting them across state lines. And Bandit he would drive a car and detour the police away from the truck.
What was it, Snowman?
Snowman, that was his CB handle. That was Reed, James, not Reed, Jerry Reed. Anyway. And so then at one point in time, the Smokey catches on and tries to follow him all the way through. And he's Jackie Gleason, and he is really, really, really funny. And when he was auditioning, which was a word I could not think of first hour, when he was auditioning for this role, they asked him, what are you going to be different than everybody else? And he says, I'm going to cuss the entire time. And he does. And it's really funny. And I don't know why it is, because I'm immature, I guess. Anyway, that's kind of the story. Got Sally Field in it. And
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, she was getting ready. She was going to marry Jackie Gleason's son
Oh,
until the bandit swoops her away. And that becomes,
Okay, I see.
mhm.
gotcha.
And his son is of the intelligence level of none. He's pretty stupid. And he mentions that several times in the movie. Like, remind me when I get home to slap your mama. Because he's so stupid. Anyway, he doesn't say it, that quote. All right, shut up. Here we go. Anyway, the Germans ain't got nothing to do with it, he says. There were 1058 of those cats. Now this pencil's not working for anything. Let P sub U be the true proportions of all U.S. Adults who think that brand names are important, and P sub G equal the true proportion of all Germans who think that brand names are important when buying clothes. Check that the conditions for calculating the confidence interval are met. So we need 2 independent random samples, and I think we definitely have 2 independent random samples. And you might go a little bit further. We have a random sample of 2309 U.S. adults, and we have a random sample of 1058 German adults. Both are independent. Independent random samples of 2309 U.S. adults and 1058 German adults, check mark. Fair enough? They definitely want to see randomness, and they definitely want to see independent. So make sure you're using those words. And then we always like it in the context. We have to think that 2309 is less than 10% of all adults, because is this with replacement or without replacement? I guess is without, right? So that's why we need to check the 10%. So there's at least that many, and we have to think there's at least that 1058 is less than 10% of all those. 10%, 2309 is less than 10% of all U.S. adults, and 1058 is less than 10% of all German adults. Okay? Again, if this was a homework or worksheet question like that, I would just say 10% check, something like that. But if it was a test, maybe a little bit more, and if it was the AP test, we'd for sure like to make sure we're getting all the points for it. And then the last one's the large numbers. And so we want to prove that 2309 times 0.26, which I'm pretty sure that's bigger than 10, and 2309 times 0.74, that's probably bigger than 10 also. 70% of that's definitely. And we want to show that this times this, and this times 1 minus this, which is 78, are both larger, or all 4 of those are larger than 10. And then they actually show NU, PU, NU 1 minus PU, NG, PG, NG 1 minus PG. They put the hats on all that stuff. If you show that, make sure you put the hats and stuff on it. That's important. I think we're okay with just showing the numbers. I don't know exactly what all they're going to require on that. If I knew what the rubric was, I'd tell you. all of those are definitely greater than or equal to 10. And then I think we need to put, so the distribution is approximately normal. I think we need to put that. Let's do that until I hear otherwise, but I think we need to put, so the distribution is approximately normal. Because that's important. We gotta know it's a normal so that we can use the Z-score stuff. If one of these does not fit, then it's not, that doesn't have to be approximately normal, and we got issues. So I think that's why we're doing the large counts, is to show that it's approximately normally distributed. All right, everybody good? Okay, here we go. Formula for this is the exact same formula in words, right? It's in words. The statistic plus or minus the critical value times the standard deviation of the statistic, or standard error, I'm sorry. Standard error of the statistic. So the formula is exactly the same as it was in 8.2. The only difference is these variables are now going to change. So statistic plus or minus critical value times the standard error of the statistic. Let's see here. Nothing. Let's do this real quick. Exit.
wants to go check the chat.
Huh?
Alicia wanted you to text the chat.
She want me to check?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's my funny name. You haven't
Oh, no, you gotta
forgiven.
go up.
Still haven't forgiven you for calling me Deke? Oh,
I think she might have meant Carson.
oh.
I'm pretty sure. Or maybe both of you.
Hey, I was just repeating Coach Mac. See? Oh, Deeksha, I'm sorry. We have nothing to do.
up.
Huh?
Nice,
No,
you
like
got
mine.
it right.
Huh? We're at 4. Now, some of those are you go, aren't they?
No, not
No?
Not anymore.
It was Melissa Taylor.
Oh, no.
Now you got two
She
legs.
texted Deisha. I don't know how she got the link.
Carson's tweet is just like it's like a Twitter chat or something.
I'm trying to teach here.
Yeah, he's gonna start using it.
Huh?
I wish we could do it. Why not just do a Twitch stream?
What?
Carson donates a bit.
This stream is weird, Shane.
I feel like that'd be so much more fun.
I think I need to turn my donations on. I think I need.
See?
All right. Statistic now. In 8.2, that was simply p hat. Well, now we're looking at the difference between two of those p's. So instead of p hat, now it's going to be p hat 1 minus p hat 2. Not that difficult, but it's the difference between them. So we need p hat 1 minus p hat 2. That is now the statistic. P hat 1 minus p hat 2. The critical value is still going to be the z-score, z-star score. And I don't care if you put the star there or not. Okay? And then the standard error of the statistic is that really big one that we used last chapter, except we need hats in them because we don't know what the P is. So we need the P hat 1 minus P hat 1 over N1 plus P hat 2, 1 minus P hat 2 over N2. And that's the formula that you can show lots of other math kids and they'll never take statistics ever because they think that that's brutal. But you guys know that that's not all that brutal. It just looks brutal. It looks kind of cool. That's why we like to write it down, because it looks cool. It's a show-off type formula. We still get the z-score the exact same way. We get it from the level, and it doesn't change if it's one sample or if it's two samples. And then all this other stuff they're going to give us. They'll give us p hat 1. They'll give us p hat 2. The other p hat 1 is still there. That's the p hat 1. There's a p hat 2 and a p hat 2. And of course, they're going to give us N1 and N2. So we'll have all the information to fill in the formula pretty easily. The only thing we might have to find is that z-score. Everybody okay? Here we go. Oh, this is the same thing. I don't know why I did it twice. It's because I want to split it up, pop it up one at a time, I guess. Oh, formulas on the formula sheet in case we missed it again, right? You'll see it in words right here, statistic, critical value, standard error. Your job is to know the statistic is p hat, or it's p hat 1 minus p hat 2. Your job is to know that the critical value is the z-score. And if you don't know the standard error of the statistic, we can go to the next page and we can see the standard error of the statistic. If it's one sample, it's right here. If it's two sample, it's right here. It says special cases right down here. That's not for this, that's for something later, and you'll see when that happens. Everybody okay? Good? All right, good enough. So here we go. All right. Patients with lower back pain are often given non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, whatever, like naproxen, to help ease their pain. Researchers wondered if taking Valium, that sounds crazy, along with the naproxen would affect the pain relief. To find out, they recruited 112 patients. All right, here we go. One, 1, 2. This is the bad pencil. Bless you. To severe lower back pain and randomly assign them into 1 or 2 treatments. Naproxen or naproxen or whatever, and Valium, or naproxen and a placebo. So there's some of the stuff that we haven't heard from in a long time, maybe in chapter 1, right? Placebo is a fake drug that makes you think it's going to be the same thing, whatever. After 1 week, 37 of the 57 subjects who took the naproxen and Valium, so I'm going to call this NV for the Valium. 57. And P hat sub D is 39 of the 57. Who took naproxen and Valium reported reduced lower back pain compared with 43 of the 55. So here's N of the, let's call it P for the placebo. I think I threw away the right one. 55 cats here, and P hat sub B is 39, nope, 43 out of the 55. Construct and interpret. Boom, that means we got to do the whole thing. Construct and interpret. A 99% confidence interval. 99% confidence interval for the difference in proportion of patients like these who would report a reduced lower back pain after taking the N and V and after taking the naproxen and the placebo for a week. So all that, just to get this little bit of information here, and they'll take it and run with it. All right, here we go. First thing we want to check is make sure that we have 2 independent random samples. And I think we do. It's a pretty small, and it didn't start off, it started off with was it a random sample? No, we recruited 112 patients. But then we recruited these cats and put them in these 2 groups. So these are 2 random samples from that 112. I'm starting to see something here. So we have 2, I did throw away the good ones. No spit on it or anything, that's good. 2 independent, random samples. 57 in and 55 in and P, something like that. I don't know. Somehow or another, we need to separate them and just do something. More than what I made them do right my first couple of years, which was SRS check mark. And I think we can, if we write this stuff down, we can see that stuff too. Ooh, I forgot method. Right, this is my this is my conditions, method. We're going to do a 2 sample proportion Z interval. And I'm okay with you abbreviating sample as samp and proportion as prop and interval as int. And I'm okay with it, and I think those cats that are going to be grading your exam will be okay with it. Might need your help here. Am I sampling with or without replacement?
Without.
So do I need to check the 10% condition?
Yes.
They say I don't. So you see my dilemma now too, and that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
They say we don't have to check the 10% condition. Did not sample patients without replacement from a larger population. I'm going to have to get more clarification on this, guys. I am. Just when I think I get it, I don't get it. Talk to me.
So they didn't do it without replacement. That means you don't have to
They didn't do it without replacement.
do it. So they did it with.
So they did it with replacement,
So then we
which
don't
means
have
I don't think they should do it with replacement. I sound confused on
Like,
this.
so they just like test them, put them back in, they can draw them back out.
See,
to.
I was confused because it was
Like,
you were
we're giving
asking
them
me.
the treatment.
I know. I'm confused too, bud. I'm sorry.
It should
I'm not
be-
helping you guys a whole lot on this, I promise you.
It should be without replacement, because if it's with replacement, like, you give them the treatment, they get back in the pool, and then you can give them the treatment again.
Does not seem right at all.
Okay,
That's an awful.
I feel much better about you guys. Y'all are validating what I'm thinking, so I'm feeling much better about this.
Well, so what should we do now?
We're just gonna run with this for right now.
Without replacement?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna run with it for right now. I kind of preface this all again, right? I didn't do this, I did the 10% for the first 8 years, but I just told them to do it every time. For proportions, we had time for the 10%. I didn't ever worry about with replacement or without replacement. Last year, they started the difference of this. They started emphasizing it. And I've read it 4 times. I've asked 4 different people, and I still don't get it. Talk to me.
Wait, so are we verifying the 10% condition for the 12, like the overall?
That's what I was.
So is that what we're thinking now?
So when you asked me, I was thinking. it was
The
asking-
sample from the 112.
I thought it was asking it because 112 is fewer than all people with back pain, fewer than 10% of all people with back pain.
Yeah. Y'all just bear with me on this. By May, we'll have it right. Bear with me on that. Y'all fair enough with that? By May, we'll get it right.
So you think that if you said something like, you think that if you say it when you're not supposed to,
I know that's fact. I know if you say it when you're not supposed to, they'll ding you. And if you don't say it when you're supposed to, they'll ding you. Let me rephrase that. I don't know that for a fact. Someone told me that. I have not seen this on a rubric yet, if that makes anybody feel fair enough. The only 3 times that I can recall, it showed it and it says if they state it, okay, and if they don't state it, we're okay. So they didn't ding you either way on it. But this is one of those new things that just came into the or whatever last year. And so I think it's something they're going to be looking at. But I think last year's thrown out the window because I'm not too sure that even came up. Best I got right now. Talk to me.
Since they did it with replacement, and originally they said without replacement, so if that condition doesn't work, Why did they just say we don't have to check it? It's just as a condition.
See, that's the answer I
They
don't
just
have.
said, they just said don't check it.
Yes. So the reason why we're using the 10% formula works. If the 10% condition doesn't work, then there's a different formula out there. And maybe I think I may have removed that slide or removed that. It's in the book. I know that. I saw it in the book about that. They even show you the other formula. I didn't want to show it to you because it's not AP topic. Y'all bear with me on that. I had it last hour, I thought, but after discussing it last hour, I said it all wrong. So we're not going to be concerned with the 10% yet. No way that statement with or without is going to keep somebody from getting a 5/4/ does that make sense on that? So I want to get it right. But right now I'm not sure on any of it. So rather than go into much more detail than kind of say it wrong, we're just going to kind of go with it right now. Maybe one of you can help me out on that later. Or I asked the guy that wrote this book last year, and I don't know what I did with it. I got an email from him somewhere. Okay, large counts condition, I know we got to check. How about that? All right, large counts condition, we got to check. So 10%. Which one of these is bad? Right here. 10%. We're going. This looks bad. This is a good one? No, I just got this one. Large counts. Let's see. Mathematically genius people. 57 times whatever the decimal this is, I'm going to get 39. And 57 minus 39 is the opposite percent. 57 times that will be the opposite of it, which is why you see what you see of just 39. Because I already have the number of successes, and then the number total minus the number of successes is the number of failures. So that's why they didn't do the n times the p, because you don't have to do the n times the p because I already know the number of successes. Y'all kind of okay with all that stuff? I don't really care. If that bothers you, just do n times p. I don't even have a p hat over here yet. Well, I do. I just don't have the decimal of it. We'll get that in a second. So I can say 39 successes. And that leaves me with 18 failures. And over here, there's 43 successes. And that leaves me with 12 failures, all greater than or equal to 10. So approximately normally distributed. I really like to check that part of it. And that's something I think I'm going to make you do that I haven't seen this book do yet. I do think it comes up in the homework. So, everybody okay with the conditions? Next thing we want to write is the formula. So, sorry, Carson, I'm going way over here. Formula is P hat V minus P hat P plus or minus Z square root P hat V 1 minus P hat V in V P hat P placebo 1 minus P hat placebo over N of the placebo. That's the formula in variables. And now I'm going to plug in using numbers. And I'm going to cheat and go right to my calculator because I'm showing you a calculator step for this. So here's my calculator. Clear. Stat. Test. Test. Int. 2 cent int. That will work, but there's a better one. 2 prop z int. And that's your clue for you to remember. Oh, I need to write that as my method. Okay, so when you see it on your calculator, that's your clue to write it. Now, I'm going to be as honest as I can about it. AP will say, student names the procedure by name or formula. I'd like for you to do both. That way in May, maybe you'll at least do one of them. Fair enough? So that's worth a point. Student names it by name or formula. I like for you to do both. And so this is when students say, do I have to write the formula in variables and then numbers? Well, if you do that, you don't have to do either one. If you don't do this, I like for you to do this and that. But I like, if you do all three of them, I really like it. Because that really shows AP that you know what the heck's going on and I got this. I hope that kind of makes sense. So 2 prop z int, enter. And I already have the data up here because I did it last hour. So there's 39 successes and there's 57 trials. And there's 43 and there's 55. And it's a 99% confidence interval. And so if I go down and calculate, I get the entire interval and I get p hat 1 and I get p hat 2. And so now I'm going to go over here and start plugging and chugging. I'm going to do 0.68 minus 0.78 plus or minus, z-score. I got to get the z-score. Darn it. Z-score. Distribution, inverse norm. I'm lucky I got the center. And they wanted me to do 99, so I still got that. If you don't have the center, we have to do 0.005. Remember, that's the tricky, that's probably a big uh-oh that students make right there. 2.5, 2.58, that's good enough. 2.58 square root 0.68, 0.32, 57 plus 0.78, 0.22, 55. Oh, darn it. I already forgot the. Nope. I gotta go back through the whole thing again. Test. Alpha B. Calculate. Negative 0.311.116. Let the calculator do your work for you guys. No need to show all these steps. Again, this is maybe a little bit more than AP expects, but by far it's going to get us the 5. Minus this 10% thing that we still got to figure out. Go ahead, James.
Where does the 0.005 come from?
0.005. Oh, yeah. So if you, most calculators don't have that center button. Most of you guys don't have one. So when I want the 99% confidence interval, that's the middle 99, which leaves 1% left over, which means both tails are 0.005. And this is 0.005. I want this z-score and this z-score. And most calculators don't have that left-right. Whoops. They don't have that, so I have to do 0.005 because all they do is the left. And that just gives me the negative z-score. Okay. Or I could do, instead of 0.005, I could do 0.995. And that's going to give me the positive one. So either way, it's p hat plus or minus. And so that's why we're getting the plus or the minus, because of the positive z-score and the negative z-score. You okay with that now?
Mm-hmm.
Again, that is the most missed thing because students a lot of times will just do inverse normal 0.99 and they're getting the wrong z-score because it's not the 99th percentile, it's the middle 99. Which the middle 99 actually makes it the 99.5 percentile. Okay. We're good. Method, condition, calculations, conclusion. We are 99% confident that the true difference of proportions between this big context question, those that experience back pain and those that took whatever with whatever and those whatever with whatever. Let's pull all this stuff up. Let's go to present. We are 99% confident. They put the interval first. I like to put it at the end, as long as we get it in there. Captures P1 minus P2. Notice that they did not put the hats right here. Do not put the hats right there because we're not talking about the samples. We're talking about the populations. The difference in the true proportions, or if you didn't want the word true, we'll just go ahead and say the population proportions of patients like these who would report reduced pain after taking a whatever and Valium versus the whatever and the placebo. I won't grade that very hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to check your context as much as probably AP will. I don't think AP will check the context as much. They're really going to look for the 99% confident. They're going to look for the true population proportion. They're going to look for the word true or the population, and they're going to look for the word proportion. And in this particular one, they're going to look for the word difference. And then pretty much they're going to assume you can put it in context correctly. But Sierra. Oh, Sierra. Sierra. Remind. See. Class.
Yes, Sierra.
See. Watkins.
You walkie-talkie me twice.
You are disturbing class.
Oh my God.
Stop it. Ooh, stop sign. Ha. Emoji.
Oh no.
I wouldn't say as young as I could. Y'all see my video where I did the plus or minus 1 year? Did y'all get it right? You didn't watch it, did you? Did you look at my PowerPoint? It was in. I gave you plus or minus 1 year and I asked you to guess my age. How confident are you? That was not today's. Monday's. Okay. You just lucky you're a blessed, intelligent young lady. Go ahead.
What does, I don't know if I understand what that really means.
Hopefully you will. What does this interval mean?
Yeah, I know it's like we're 99% confident that that's what the difference.
The difference in the proportions of those who felt relief, right? If it's a negative value, that must mean that this one minus this one, that must mean that these people felt more relief than these people.
I didn't know.
Okay with that?
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody else okay with that? When it's the positive side of this, that must mean that these people felt more relief than these people. And that's going to come up in just a second. We're going to hit this in just a second more. All right. Big question. Like on the AP test, I'm not guaranteed you're going to have a confidence interval. I don't know if it's a 2 sample. I don't know if it's a 1 sample. I don't know if it's means, and I don't know if it's proportions. But you're going to have one that you'll have to do all 4 steps to it. Okay? We'll knock it out like this right here. You're gonna get a 5 on that question. You're happy, happy, joy, joy. Actually, you can only get 4 points on it. Hopefully that 10% is not enough to knock you all the way down to a 5. I'd have a tough time believing it would. Knock you down to a 3 instead of a 4. You're going to get an E, P, or I for this or this. You're going to get an E, P, or I for the conditions. And I would hate to say that that 10% is going to drop you all the way from an E to a P. And you're going to get an E, P, or I for the interval or the work. And then you're going to E, P, or I for the conclusion. And then they're going to add up the E's, and hopefully you get all 4 points. And they're going to add up the P's, and if you don't, you're only going to get 3. And they're going to add up the I's, and they'll give you 0. And it's hard to believe that you're going to get no points out of that. Just check the conditions. You're going to get at least 1. Everybody okay? All right. Many students lose credit when defining parameters in an experiment by describing the sample proportion rather than the true proportion. We are 99% confident that in this sample, boom, you're getting dot. Huge. We're not talking about the sample. We're trying to compare the sample to the population. We're trying to predict the population. For example, the true proportion of patients who reduce those by A describes P hat 1 and P hat 2, not P1 and P2. That's why I don't even like to mention those things. I just talk about the population and go with it. Okay, here's B part of this question. Based on this confidence interval, this interval over here, and here's what AP's test will say, based on your confidence interval. Because if by some crazy chance you get this wrong, then they want the answer to reflect this. Even though this may not be the one on the rubric, they want it to reflect this answer. So based on your confidence interval, what conclusion can you make about whether taking Valium along with approximate affects the relief? Explain. Do we think, based on this confidence interval, else on there that was going to help me with this part? Where is that at? Help if I would turn it on. That must have been something different. What conclusion can we make about this? Do we think that taking Valium with the whatever, naproxen, is better than just taking naproxen? And how can we talk? Talk to me.
Is it, so, because like our interval includes 0, is that saying that they could be equal?
That's exactly what it's saying. Y'all follow that? And if you read ahead, that's what you can see on that. If both of these were positive, let's talk about that first. If both of these were positive, then I think we have enough evidence to say that this percentage is higher than this percentage. And so I think we can show a difference. If both of these were negative, I think we can show that this one seems to be higher than this one. But because 0 is in this interval, I don't think we can say there's a difference. And it doesn't matter that this is 0.3 and this is 0.1, and we know that 0 like on this side of it. Keep talking to me.
So do we just need like one value to offset the whole thing?
Boss, one value is offset the whole thing. Here's what we can't say. Don't say that the difference is 0. Fair enough with that? We can't say that. But we can say because 0 is in my interval, I cannot truthfully say that there is going to be a difference between the two groups. And that's pretty much all you have to say on it. Let's see what they did on that. Because the interval includes 0 as a plausible value for P1 minus P2, again, don't use the hats right there. I think that's going to get us in trouble. Maybe that's why I don't do that part of it. We don't have convincing evidence that taking Valium along with the naproxen affects the pain relief for patients that we chose. So that's one thing we kind of want to emphasize a little bit there too. Remember that this was we just chose these 112 or whatever people right off the bat at the beginning. I don't know if they were volunteers or we did something special to get those cats, but so it might be a little biased to say that that's for all of them, but again, we're kind of trying to tie a little bit of chapter 1 with that a little bit. Y'all okay with that? So if you see them both positive, it's okay to say that we think there is a difference. We think that this one's higher than this one. Now, remember this, and this is very possible for them to say also. I can adjust this interval, right? Because instead of a 99%, I could make that a 95%. I can make it a 90%. And if I make it a 90%, that's going to lower that number. Well, if it lowers that number, it lowers my interval because now I'm only 90% confident. And it's possible that I lower it enough to where it moves this to this side of it, and it makes it a negative. So that's where we have issues about some of the statistics that we get in our life and say, yeah, it's proven. We proved that it's better. We moved our data around to help me prove it. Fair enough? Or I could take a larger sample size, right? If I take a larger sample size, that's going to decrease this thing down, which decreases this thing down. And it's very possible, again, that I kick 0 out of that interval. It's very possible I kick 0 out of that interval. So that's how all this stuff kind of works. That's all I have. Never suggest you believe the difference is 0. Don't say it is 0. Just say that 0's in it. I already showed you the calculator. Just remember, the calculator is only there to ease the calculations. It is not there to work the problem for you. So it eases this calculations right here, but the calculator is going to give you this without having to do all this other stuff. But if you don't do all this other stuff, you're not getting any points, guys. No doubt. You're not getting any points. They don't care what this value says. And if you go back to what I said earlier, right, based on your interval, because if you get this wrong, they want that answer to reflect your interval. So if both of these were positive, they would give you full marks for answering it correctly. They don't like to double ding you. If you miss that, you're going to miss this. Well, they don't care about that. If you miss this, they ding you. But if this fits your answer, then you get full marks. I'm done. Guys, this is where I'm at with you guys, right? I'm done with chapter 8. I know that starts to worry you because you're thinking, oh my gosh, what are we doing now, right? Again, my major objective is to get the information for statistics to you guys by May. That's my main objective. My second objective is for you to show me that you understand it. Well, with us doing this 50-50 stuff, I don't like taking almost a whole week to get a test in. Plus, I think you guys even get the raw end of the deal. You get the better end because you get to study longer, but then it messes you up because I do the lesson the day before, it kind of messes you up on the next lesson part of it. And I don't like to teach a lesson virtually, especially these coming up because these are huge. Now, I think maybe after these, we might can do that. So as of right now, I'm thinking I'm combining this chapter with next chapter. I mean, statistics is a running deal anyway, so at some point I'm going to give you a test over the entire freaking course. Don't let it scare you, but that's what I plan on doing at some point. I know you call that cumulative, I don't care. Because that's my main objective again. Y'all okay with it? Kind of see what's happening? So what I'm looking at is Monday, probably starting chapter 9, or instead of starting chapter 9 on Monday, probably giving you guys a couple work days and give you some worksheets and stuff. And then probably starting 10 or 9 the next chapter or the next week. But again, I don't even know if we're doing 50-50 next week yet. So it's really hard for me to kind of plan without knowing that part of it. The thing I like about the 50-50 right now is I have yet to send anybody home for close contact. So that's serving its purpose right now. It's at least getting you to come to school if you can, right?
Do you know when they're going to tell you?
I don't know. That's my complaint right now. And I think, I kind of feel sorry for them because I don't think they want to make a decision this early, knowing that, I think that's part of the issue too, James.
Mr. Davis said Thursday by 4.
That's my guess is, I think they're going to do it before Friday for sure. My personal thought is we're at least going the next 2 weeks. That's my personal thought. I'd be surprised if we didn't go to spring break. But, because I'm looking at state numbers and they're not going down. And if those numbers are not going down, that's why we did, is because those numbers are so down. We were just sending so many kids home. It's just, it's a bad deal, guys. Luckily, we haven't had really anybody just get gosh awful. As far as I know, none of my students have gotten just gosh awful brutally sick from it. They did not feel good and that kind of stuff, but as far as I know, it's best everybody I've talked to. Now that one that was, she didn't feel real great at all, but luckily that was it, for a while. Now I know that we've had issues with older people and stuff and other kinds, but right now, luckily. So hopefully we all get our shots and get all this done soon. We go on, hopefully. I'm tired of it, and I can't imagine you guys. I feel so sorry for you guys. I really do. But it is what it is, and we're making the best of it. She didn't text me back. I'm very unhappy.
I did,
Oh, she did too?
yeah.
I'll add you on walkie-talkie. It was a butt dial. I was like, we need to get a smaller book. You want to tell her that? Ooh, I'm like, you need to move your phone. Shucks, that was on YouTube. I'm done. Oh, that's not very nice. Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. 2, 1. They're slowly going away. End.